Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. Today, I have as a guest Dr. Dina Casiro, Chief Medical Officer of the NCAA, and I am Tracy Murphy, D2 ADA President, as well as the Vice President for Athletics at Damon University. And Dina and I sat down and we had a little conversation about some hot topics going on in the world of college athletics. So thank you very much for joining me. Let's begin.
Thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate this opportunity. Looking forward to it.
So let's jump in. I mean, it's been a little over a year as you being the new chief medical officer. So tell me, how has it been and what have been some of the key priorities for you?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's been 14 months now or so,
Mhm.
and in a lot of ways, it went by pretty quickly. The first couple months, just really trying to get my feet underneath me. I think the transition from being a boots on the ground athletic trainer and then a boots on the ground team physician for my entire career. It was certainly a transition, sort of stepping into this role as chief medical officer and sort of zooming out and having more of the national perspective on the health, safety, and performance piece. But it has been amazing. I came here to lead the Sports Science Institute, and the individuals that I inherited on this team are just spectacular. The passion that they come to work with every day to really do what we need to do to help member schools support their student athletes on campus has been really inspiring. So it's also been exciting to see the NCAA from the inside, to see sort of how it works and how things get created. And I was really impressed with how much people care here, and how much folks under this roof really come to work every day trying to figure out a way to make this better. And that's been really inspiring as well. And spending time just listening really in my first, 10 to
Right.
12 months, right? I mean, I think anytime you step in as a new leader, you want to listen a lot more than you want to change. And so I feel like I really did spend that first year listening, learning, absorbing, and then sort of starting to think about my vision and
Hmm.
what mark I wanted to have on all of this. And so it's been really great. And so when I think about my key priorities, for me, it really sort of starts with what is the role of CMO? I think
Hmm.
that's probably a question that a lot of people don't have the answer to. So I like to spend a minute talking about that. I came in as a senior vice president of the Sports Science Institute, and our job is to support the Health and Safety Committee of the NCAA, which is the Committee on Competitive Safeguards and Medical Aspect of
Right.
Sport. And so a lot of what we do is supporting that committee. And so our priorities are in a lot of ways their priorities, and the
Right.
issues that committee comes to us, and brings forth. And I'm sure Tracy will dive into what some of those priorities are. But for me as CMO, it was really about relationships. I was an athletic trainer. I was a team physician for 15 years in the membership. And so some of my key priorities have been strengthening those relationships with people on campus. So opportunities like this to address your
Hmm.
audience, and to talk about what we do and what we're working on has been a key priority for me. In addition to just looking at how we do things in SSI and making sure that we're doing them with efficiency, that we're putting forth resources that the membership is asking for, that they find useful. All of those sort of fall under what I would consider my priorities.
Well, thank you. I have to imagine that it has been pretty interesting to look from the inside out when you were from the outside in before in your previous roles. I could say the same. I think most people that are watching this would probably say anytime they're on a committee or they're involved at the home office, that's always part of the education process, and it's very enlightening. And it also helps you with your decision making and your conversations and your relationship building. When it comes to the SSI, could you give us like an overview of what you would say the core function is? I mean, I think A lot of people look at SSI as like, okay, well, that's the report the athletic trainers are doing. But there's so much more to it than that. Can you kind of go over the core functions of SSI for us?
Yeah, I love that question. I really do enjoy talking about my department by reviewing all of the things that we do, because I think you're right. I think a lot of aspects of what my department does every day is a little bit lost in some of the day to day. So when we think about the Sports Science Institute by core function, we think about a couple of things. One area is our data collections programs. So for one, the injury surveillance program, which whenever I can, I like opportunities to sort of plug the importance of member schools participating in our injury surveillance program. And we do have a lot of exciting changes coming with the injury surveillance program. Both in an effort to, of course, increase participation, because the more member schools we have participating, the more data we collect, and the more data we collect, the more we can extrapolate from that data to help our member schools inform their decisions around injury patterns and other decisions that folks make on campus. And so we have a lot of exciting things coming. We're looking into updating some of the methodologies that we use for the injury surveillance program. We're also looking at opportunities in improving the technology that is used to help the process become a little bit more streamlined. So lots more to come there. But in addition to injury surveillance, we have our concussion reporting and our catastrophic
Right.
injury reporting. And so this is a whole area of my department that sometimes we don't talk about as much as some of the others. Another humongous area is the drug testing program. So
Hmm.
SSI oversees the NCAA drug testing program. CSMAS has a huge role in that as well. And so that is a really large area of what we do. Guidance and education is another core function, right? So as CSMAS deliberates on different health, safety, and performance topics, they lean on their advisory groups and other subject matter experts that we have relationships with to help put together consensus-based guidance, and then that guidance gets disseminated to our member schools to use as resources. So that's obviously a huge piece of what we do. And then we have a sort of new core function in SSI, this idea of development. And when we talk about this core function, we're talking about this sort of evolution. We all know the college landscape is changing rapidly. The way we talk to our membership, the way we disseminate resources, all of that has to change and evolve as the collegiate landscape evolves. And so I've created this separate area within SSI to develop and create some bandwidth so that we can make sure that we're evolving. We can make sure that we have the flexibility to address upcoming issues that we weren't expecting. Sometimes things come out of the blue, like a global pandemic, right? And we've got to
Right.
pivot and we've got to make room and time to manage those things. And so this area of development was really important for me to work into SSI. Looking at increasing our external partnerships with professional organizations and other organizations outside of the NCAA that integrates with the work that we do, so that we could leverage that expertise and those relationships to better inform the work that we're doing. And then the last core function is CSMAS and our responsibility to that committee, to putting forth policy that comes out of that committee. And then that is a great opportunity for me to just talk a little bit about CSMAS. I think one of the things that I didn't know as much about when I was a team physician for 15 years was this committee and how it works and the integral role that it plays in the health, safety, and performance of the membership.
Hmm.
And so this is a 25 member committee. It's an association-wide committee, so we've got representation from all three divisions. We also have representation from almost every title on campus that would touch a student athlete. So we've got team doctors, we've got athletic trainers, we have ADs, we have coaches, we of course have student athletes from each division. And again, the guidance that comes down to the membership really starts with this committee and the advisory
Hmm.
groups that prop that committee up. And then my department really helps on the administrative end to put together that guidance and disseminate it to the membership. So those are our core functions. It's a lot, but
It's a
I
lot. It is a
appreciate.
lot. Well, it needs to be a lot. I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, we deal with it's a daily, by minute thing that we all deal with because student athletes are out there and they're working out, and that's an important thing. I think I like some of the things that you hit on that I'm glad that you shared with everybody because people need to realize it's more than data is important because it does drive some decision making, but it's also how do you take that data and what do you do with it and how can you share it in a way that becomes practical and that we can actually integrate it or use it right away and provide resources depending on our institutions and our personal situations. I think that's key. I also liked how it all ties in with CSMAS and how there's more to do and more people that are around the table to talk about these things. Um, which brings me to one thing. Can you further explain how CSMAS and the data from SSI and all the new little avenues through SSI, how can you all and how do you all contribute to legislation when it comes to health and safety and to the playing rules? How do you all fit into that? How are you a resource when those conversations are happening?
Yeah, it's a great question and one I think that deserves some attention because I think folks probably don't fully understand that pathway. And yeah, so when the playing rules committees come forward with potential changes to whether it's practice and playing seasons or other things that cross over into the health, safety, and performance space, CSMAS is asked to weigh in on those potential legislative proposals. And this is where we really rely on the expertise of CSMAS coming from the membership. And that's why it's really important to have such a diverse committee. So we have folks that are athletic trainers, but also coaches, but also ADs, and there's different perspectives that kind of come into that. And then the Health and Safety Committee is able to put forward, sometimes it's a recommendation, sometimes it's an opinion about that legislative proposal and how it might potentially affect student athlete health, safety, and performance. So there's really a lot of involvement from that committee. And again, staff's role is really supportive as the committee is the one that's sort of having those conversations, and making those opinions and putting them forward. And I think it sort of echoes the larger role of SSI in that it is our job to help schools so that they can help their student athletes on their campuses.
Right,
And you mentioned before,
right.
Tracy, sort of this difference of resources amongst different schools, right?
Hmm.
That's a constant piece that we have to track on. It's quite easy to say, oh, all the schools have to do X, right? But when you think
Right.
about the different resources and the different geographical locations of the institutions across
Correct.
all three divisions, it becomes very difficult to sort of cast these broad sort of
Right.
recommendations. That's why it's really important that this work is led by CSMAS. It's led by the actual membership, not NCAA staff or the CMO sort of sitting in a room and thinking up these things. And
Right.
that's a really important point to highlight.
Oh, I'm glad that I asked and you answered as well as you did because I think everybody needs to realize that these things are thoughtful. Thoughtfully processed, and that there are a lot of people there's a lot of eyeballs on the material. And I think that's important for people to realize, and also to know that a lot of the information and the feedback from the various groups, CSMAS, et cetera, can be found in LSDBI. So it may not be that something that you may have published, but your feedback is available and people can find that in LSDBI and understand why something's moving in one direction legislatively or playing rules wise. I think
Yeah,
that's important for coaches to not think that, well, they're not hearing us. Well, no, we heard you, but this is why.
Yeah, Tracy, you bring up an excellent point, and it reminds me of another piece I wanted to mention. So I actually was a member of CSMAS prior to taking this role as chief medical
Hmm.
officer. And when I was asked to be on this committee or given the opportunity to be on this committee, I had to have a real conversation with myself about whether I had the bandwidth to be on this
Hmm.
committee. Was already on a lot of committees, doing a lot of work, and I was the senior associate athletic director for sports medicine at UConn at the time in the head team position. And so I wasn't sure if I could do it. And I spoke to some of my colleagues who had served on this committee, and they said
Right.
it was some of the most professionally satisfying committee work they've ever done for the exact same reason that you brought up, which is that every conversation that CSMAS has is a very robust, thoughtful conversation. There are a lot of voices, there's a lot of perspectives, there's a lot of conversation. And you're right, sometimes the coaches are trying to get one point across, the athletic trainers are trying to get their point across. And at
Right.
the end of the day, one perspective is taken over the other, right, in every situation, but it's
Correct.
not for the lack of conversation, and those
Right.
voices were all heard, which is, I think, a really another important, these aren't committee meetings where everybody just agrees and we move on to the next agenda item.
I have no doubt that they are not that way. I have no doubt. And I think I know that a lot of people that I have known in the past to be on CSMAS have felt it's an honor to serve on that committee. And I commend the work that they've done, all the people that have been on that committee, because it's not an easy committee. And there's a lot there to discuss. And, and you've just got to find the best path forward. And I get that. So thank you for further explaining that, because I think it's important for people to know that there is a voice. People do have voices. People are being heard, and and all those things are coming into consideration. Going to shift gears a little bit to really exciting topic that I think you will enjoy, sort of. But we have a very similar background in terms of the fact that both of us got into the business of college sports through being an athletic trainer. And for a variety of reasons, we moved into more administrative roles or into actual medicine. And well, we've got an interesting situation that seems to be developing, or has been developing over the last couple years. We have athletic training is a very demanding profession. And I think that we know that firsthand, right? And there are some challenges before us across the country when it comes to collegiate athletic training. What do you see as some of the uh, more specific, than not just the fact that hiring athletic trainers, but just in more general, maybe? What are the challenges that athletic trainers are going through when they are in the collegiate setting?
Yeah, this is obviously a really important topic. It's one that is very near and dear to my heart for
Yep,
obvious reasons, as you mentioned, Tracy. And it's a really complex problem, right? This is
it is.
not a simple problem with a simple solution. It's probably a combination of a lot of factors that have contributed to us being where we are right now. You
Mhm,
know, internally in the national office and with CSMAS, we refer to this as sort of the athletic training workforce issue, right?
mhm,
And it's this issue of athletic trainers um, maybe not choosing the collegiate athlete space as where they want to stay in their jobs, or seek jobs right out of school.
mhm.
And so there's a lot of conversations around, why is that and how do we make this better? And CSMAS has been tracking on this issue now for more than 2 years. In 2023, they held their first sort of stakeholder meeting where they invited all of the folks that are considered major stakeholders in the athletic training space, the NATA, the Board of Certification, CATI, which is the accreditation body,
Right.
and others, to have this conversation of, is this because it went from a undergraduate program to a master's degree? Is that why we're having this problem? And they released a statement back then. Since then, Division III has done a lot of work surveying athletic directors and athletic trainers in Division III to sort of try to get to the root
Mhm.
of this. And they have released a great report. If anybody on the call or listening to this has not seen that report, regardless of what division you are a part of, this report is absolutely pertinent to you.
I agree. It is
Yeah,
worth a read. It's
worth a
worth the read.
read. And the
Hmm.
best part about the report is the recommendations that kind of come
Hmm.
out of it. There are some really great actionable ideas in there that folks can kind of lean into. And so lots of conversation around this issue, lots of data gathering and trying to figure it out. We've actually reconvened that group first a couple of months ago in July, and then again early October. And we've been having subsequent meetings with this group to try to collectively have a better understanding of, are we talking about a numbers issue, right? Are there less athletic trainers out there? The answer is no. The credentialing landscape has actually remained quite stable. The issue is that, Tracy, since you and I were athletic trainers,
Uh-huh.
there are now way more options for athletic trainers to
Correct.
seek employment with their credentials than
Hmm.
there were when you and I were in those roles. I know when I was an athletic trainer, being a college athletic trainer was the best job an athletic trainer could have. I mean, being at the
I
professional
agree.
level was that pie in the sky, but if
Yep.
you landed in a college job,
You made it. That's
you
right.
made
Yep.
it.
That
Yeah,
was the goal. Yep.
that's it.
Absolutely. Hmm.
And for a lot of reasons, feelings around that have changed. You and I both know that the pressures of collegiate athletics, the expectations that fall on athletic trainers now compared to when we were in that profession they're unrecognizably different.
Correct.
And in the work-life balance, which again, all of us in athletics understand, right? The work-life, if you want like the world's best work-life balance, collegiate athletics is a challenging
It's
space to acquire that.
very much so.
But
Right.
but for athletic trainers, especially where their salaries end up as compared to
Mhm.
other professions within collegiate athletics, and especially now that their education has gone from 4 years to 6 years, right? So their education now costs more money than it used to, but their
Right.
salaries have not been going up
Nope.
commiserate with that increase in the cost of their education. So there's those types of issues. And then again, there's all the competing options they have now for jobs that feel more like 9 to 5 jobs, whether they're at
Correct.
Amazon or FedEx or the local physical therapy department, where you might work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and have a salary that's more competitive. And so all of this to say, lots of different factors rolling in. The group that's meeting regularly, this stakeholder group that I mentioned,
Mhm.
their focus right now is on actionable items to help the membership. So really not just talking about this issue, but thinking about how can we, as a large stakeholder group, contribute to some solutions here. And the team is working on both immediate solutions, things that are sort of low-hanging fruit that we might be able
Mhm.
to put together pretty quickly for the membership, and then some longer-term action items as well. And so some of the short-term options that have been talked about at the recent meeting is around this idea of sort of bundling packages for schools and conferences that identify existing resources, right? So you could say like,
Right.
here are a bunch of resources. We've increased accessibility to those resources and just make it really easy for schools and conferences to identify those. And the other one I really like is resources for campus decision makers, right? Because the athletic trainers aren't
Yes.
always the decision makers, as
That's
I speak
correct.
to a group of athletic directors
Hmm.
right now, right?
Uh-huh.
And I've had plenty of ADs come to me and say, I want to help this issue on my campus, but I'm not
Right.
exactly sure how to fix the problem or how to address the issue. And so I think focusing on resources to help folks like you all, I think is also
Right.
really, really important. And then down the line, some changes to education around soft skill development, making sure that athletic trainers that are coming out of school are not just able to clinically perform their duties, but that they're
Hmm.
also getting some education and support around how to have a difficult conversation with a coach or an AD, Because a lot of athletic trainers now are coming out of school and they're getting these big
They don't.
jobs and these big positions where
Yes,
usually you would have to have 5 or 6 years of experience before you would get a job like that. So
right.
all of the, I could talk for an hour on this topic alone, but
So could I. And I'm sure my brethren would love me to ask you a lot more detailed questions, but I know that we have a lot more that we want to talk about. But, I just want to thank you so much for diving into it 2 years ago. I mean, we told you that it was a problem and you all went, okay, and you all turned the lens around and you reached out to all the right associations and all the right alphabet and you got them to get into a room and talk about it and keep the and allowing the dialogue to stay open and ideas to flourish. I do get phone calls because of my background, and people do know that I was an athletic trainer, and so people do ask me, how is it going on your campus, and how is it different? And I wouldn't necessarily say that my situation is any different than anybody else's, but
right,
I do have a little bit a different perspective. So,
right,
I do engage my athletic trainers in other ways. I do, they are part of I do have my head athletic trainer is part of our decision-making team. So that I do yeah, thank you. I do and let him, he needs to have a say. He needs
yeah.
to give me his perspective. Are we doing the right thing? And one of the things that I want everybody to realize on this call that's listening is you all are great resources, but even better is your athletic trainer on your. In other words, you should be
Great
talking
point,
to
Tracy.
them. Yeah, you
Great
have to
point.
be asking them questions and you have to
Right.
engage them, and you don't have to speak their language. You just need to listen. They are the people on your campus that know the most information about every single one of your student athletes from the inside out.
Yeah.
You want to know what's going on and you want to know about your needs. The athletic trainer is, so use them in that
Yeah.
way.
Tracy, I
You
can't
know?
tell you how important what you just said is, because even though the athletic training workforce issue is a pretty widespread issue across all three divisions. I mean,
Yes,
I go out on
it
the
is.
road, I do site visits to
Mm-hmm.
schools to engage and to listen and to learn. And I hear from every school across all three divisions that this is an issue to some degree. But each
Mm-hmm.
school has a slightly different issue, right? So when
Right.
people say, how can I help? I say exactly what you said, which is the first thing you need to do is speak to your athletic trainers to figure
Yes.
out what the issue is on your campus, because sometimes
Yes.
it's salary and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's work
Correct.
hours, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's
Sometimes it's
being
just simple
invited,
communication.
being invited to the
Yeah.
decision-making conversation.
Yes.
That is like a simple thing that I tell athletic directors all the time. Start by just asking your athletic trainer. Now,
Yes.
your athletic trainer needs to understand that just because they want it a certain way doesn't mean that you as the AD are going to be able to grant
Correct.
their wishes, right? That's not what this is about, but it is about them feeling that they're being listened to, that their
Yes.
voices are being heard. And even if you don't end up going in that direction, that goes a long way with athletic training satisfaction because they feel like they're part of the process.
That's right. They feel professionally respected. And that
That's what
is
this is all
something
about.
that, because of where the training rooms are located, out of sight, out of mind. And it's got to be in there somewhere, more to the front.
Yep.
And you just the difference you make with a simple question or walking down to the training room and having a simple conversation and just tapping into what's going on makes such a huge impact. Like you said, not every situation is because of salary.
Yeah.
Not every situation is because of hours. Some could simply be because of communication or lack of involvement or decisions being made and they're the last to know. Just
Yeah.
professional respect.
Yeah.
And
Tracy,
I think it'll go a long way.
another thing I want to mention about that is, athletic trainers are healthcare providers, right? So
Yes.
like doctors and like nurses, they
Hmm.
embedded in the core of their DNA
Yes.
is
Yes.
caring for other people's well-being, right?
That's
Like
right.
they don't have a switch to say like,
No.
I'm working too hard and I'm not getting paid enough, so I'm going to stop taking care
Mhm.
of this athlete until I get higher salary or better work hours. So what ends up happening, they continue to provide phenomenal care at their expense, right?
Yes.
And then what happens is if you aren't going to your athletic training room and checking in or seeing them and talking to them, your perception may be my athletic training room is running just fine. It's not an issue because they are figuring it out. And then what
Right.
happens is they get burnt out. And then the way that manifests for you all as ADs is athletic trainers saying, I'm leaving for another job before you as
Right.
ADs have had an opportunity to say, okay, it sounds like we've got to make a change here. What do we need to do
Right.
to make this better? So
You exactly. That's exactly it. And there's a lot to be said. I mean, the core of the level of care, that's why they take the 3 a.m. phone call. That is why they stay behind when the rest of the team travels back because somebody's in the hospital. That's
right.
why you know, that's why everything happens. And you just need, just be aware. Just
Yeah.
ask questions, say hello, be aware,
Yeah.
and be more understanding, and just provide them the professional respect that you ask in return in your at your position, you
That's
know.
right.
But thank you.
Yeah.
We could go on for a while with this
Yes.
conversation, but I absolutely loved being an athletic trainer. A lot of honestly, a lot of the things that are being discussed now were issues back then too, but that was not why I transitioned out. Um, it was because of my experiences as an athletic trainer and the education that I was receiving about college athletics from their perspective that afforded me opportunities to get into administration and further leadership roles. So there's a lot there, and there's a lot. I'm very proud to be a former athletic trainer. So I thank you very much for listening and asking the questions and trying to find ways to help. So thank you. I really do appreciate that.
My pleasure.
So I'm
Sincere.
going to go to another topic that's also very, very prevalent nowadays. We just got out of the month of October, which was mental health, month, and then we had a National Mental Health Day, and we're still talking about it, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. So, you know, what are you hearing from the membership regarding the topic? Does people think that we're making headway, that we're providing more resources and opportunities? What's the NCAA doing to continue to help us help them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, it's a great topic for us to dive into next, because it's an incredibly important one. And ever since the NCAA released the mental health best practices and then updated it, and
Hmm.
released that update last year, this is a legislated document that across all three
Hmm.
divisions, schools have to provide supportive environments for student athletes'
Right,
mental health that's in accordance with this document. So that was just a huge piece to all of this. And I think ever since we've had the mental health best practices and then updated it, we are seeing things moving in the right direction. And I make it a personal sort of goal of mine that every time I'm asked to speak about mental health, I want to start with the positive.
right,
Because I think there's a lot of positive to celebrate. I think it's important to start there. And so first and foremost, research has continued to show us that participation in NCAA sports can be protective for student athlete mental health, and that when you compare non athletes to student athletes, we will see less reporting of debilitating depression, overwhelming anxiety, episodes of self-harm in student athletes compared to the non-athlete peer. So I want to start that because there's, of course, lots of conversations around all the added pressures that sports bring.
right,
And all of
right,
that, has its truths to it, but we still believe it is protective. And that I think is really, really important. The other important positive thing is that since the release of our updated mental health best practices, we're actually seeing that more student athletes on campus know where to go to seek
that's
mental
right.
health care than
Hmm.
before the update. And I think that that is
I
really
will agree. I agree. I
So
agree.
we're seeing a lot of positive momentum in that way. And then, we are seeing the stigma start to come down, right? I think we still have a
Mhm.
long way to go around the stigma. We still see our research shows that student athletes still feel way more comfortable talking to their coaches about their physical injuries than they do their mental health, right? And so
Yes.
we still have
Yes.
some way to go there to work on that. We just really we just really do need to celebrate that we're moving in the right direction. We're just not entirely there yet. And then we also are seeing, so we track on our website how often our resources are tapped into or clicked on.
Uh-huh.
And since the updated mental health best practices, we're seeing our resources being accessed more often than they were before. So all of these things, Tracy, are good signs that our messaging is getting out there, and schools are feeling more resourced in this area than they were before. But obviously, we've got a long way to go. I can tell you that this is an evergreen topic, as you mentioned. It isn't going
Hmm.
where CSMAS has expressed over and over again that this will continue to be a priority. It is written into our strategic priorities that mental and physical health is a strategic priority from a health, safety, and performance perspective for the NCAA. So you're right, there'll just be lots more to come on this. Other things that we're doing right now, we have partnered with the National Council for Mental Wellbeing to provide mental health first aid training at
Hmm.
upcoming NCAA events. So those in Division 3 will probably be super familiar with mental health first aid, as Division 3 has made a great effort to provide this training for 30 individuals on each of their campuses, focusing mostly on coaches and athletic trainers. And then we decided to sort of expand that a little bit and try to offer additional trainings at big NCAA events like the Impact Forum and convention and upcoming regional rules in the summer. So looking forward to that. And then we partnered with the JED Foundation to update and create some new mental health fact sheets. So we're going to have a fact sheet on social media and the important interplay that that has on mental health, and also ones on body image. And then we'll update the ones we have on depression and anxiety. So just lots of ongoing work there. And then our SSI spotlights, that's another area that I'd want to plug and talk about. So our SSI spotlights, Tracy, are these lunchtime webinars that SSI produces. We release about one a month. The
Hmm.
majority of the folks that tune into those are athletic trainers, but we do have some
Correct.
sport administrators and team doctors that click onto those as well. We have a lot of SSI spotlights on the mental health best practices and different areas around mental health. They are all available on our YouTube channel. So you can just, Google SSI Spotlight YouTube and you'll have access to all of those. Those have been a really effective way for us to push out mental health resources. And then if you go to our website, nca.org/SSI, particularly our key publications page, you'll see all of our documents there. And under the mental health umbrella, you'll see all of our resources listed. So
Dina, I want to thank you because this topic is, like you said, it's an evergreen topic. It's not going away. But everything that you said about it was all in the positive. There was no that to me, that alone in our conversation is indicating that the stigma is reduced. Because even between colleagues, you and I, we're talking from a positive position. We're not talking about, oh my goodness, and what ifs and shoulda, couldas. We're talking about, hey, we are doing all these things and we have all these things at your fingertips. So, sharing SSI's resources for everybody on this, it's not just for athletic trainers, it's for everybody to, especially if there's an administrator that oversees a student athlete group, your SAC. National SAC, I will give a lot of credit to
oh,
because their voice
definitely.
is being heard because they are in the discussions and they are
Yeah.
sharing. Our conference SAC, our institutional SAC. I mean, we just did, their mental health week, and the level of activity, because we're tracking it, doubled between
Yeah.
last year and this year, because we are we are talking about it more. We are able to talk about it more. There is, is it in huge percentages? No, but it's a start. You
Yeah.
know, it's a start. And as long as we continue to move in this direction, then everybody is just going to be the better for it. You know, and I think the mental health first aid, I think that's great. I know that the initiative from Division 3, Division 2 just was asked to complete a survey regarding those opportunities
Yeah.
to get certified as well, like we did for Division 3. So I'm encouraged by my colleagues to jump on that board and jump on that bandwagon and take that course and just feel better prepared. You
Yeah.
know, and when you're in the room making decisions and thinking about programs and resources, you have that information to draw off of. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah. And I
So
think when
I think y'all are
ADs,
doing great.
yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a team effort for sure. Lots of amazing people played a role in all of this. And I think when, you think about it from the athletic director perspective, one of the
Hmm.
biggest jobs you all have is supporting your coaches, right? I mean, those are obviously
Yes.
huge
Uh-huh.
players in your
Hmm.
day-to-day responsibilities. And when I'm out at these site visits or I'm out at campuses and I'm meeting with coaches and ADs and other sport administrators that don't have any, of course, training in the mental health
Right,
space, they come to me and
right.
say, how do we become better prepared? Because we
Hmm.
all know athletes don't always go to their athletic trainers first, right? A lot of times they do,
Correct.
but sometimes they'll go to a coach that they have a really close
Right,
relationship with, or a coach will notice something's going on with an athlete, but not know how to broach the subject with the athlete.
right.
What can I say? What should I say? Can I push this person in practice if I
Hmm.
know that they are
Hmm.
having an active mental health issue, or should I push back? And so mental health first aid can be really helpful to give those people, as you mentioned, that sense of comfort with how to navigate
Yes,
those initial conversations. And so, as
yes.
athletic directors, you can say to your coaches, I support you all getting this training so that you feel better supported when you're having these interactions with those student athletes.
Correct. One of the things I remember doing in ours was role playing, which I thought was very helpful because it really did make all the coaches feel a little bit more comfortable when approached. Um, and just constantly letting them know what the resources are and they are to be more aware so that they can
Yeah.
share them. But this topic is near and dear, and I think we just need to continue doing what we're doing and continue talking about it because even mentioning it out loud in front of people reduces the stigma in itself. Um, and the best people to do that for each other are peers, like for their own peers. So
Yeah.
coaches to coaches and ADs to ADs and students to students. And I think it's great. So I thank you. Listen, I mean, Dina, I appreciate your time. I mean, we could do this. I could do this for a while.
Me
Um,
too.
but I know that you have things to do and I have things to do. But I really want to thank you very, very much for, just having this casual conversation and talk about some of the things that you're working on and that your team is working on to make it better for all of us. Make it, we're in a college athletics for reasons. We love it. We love the energy and excitement. Um, and it's not easy. It's not an easy job, but we just got to keep remembering that we're not in it alone. We have resources at our fingertips. And you just, you're just reminding everybody and also forecasting some exciting things that are going to come to us soon. And I just think it's great. So thank you very, very much for your time. I hope
Yeah,
you
you're very
enjoyed
welcome, and thank you for the
this
opportunity. I
time.
really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I really do. Thank you. Have a great week.